Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Marie Holiday, and I hope everybody had a fabulous day today. Today is October the 27th, 2020, Tuesday. And before we get started, I just want to remind my subscribers and viewers and potential subscribers to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button. And with that being said, let's get down to business. The focus of this segment is going to be, what is psychological dependency? What is psychological dependency, and how does it tie into addiction? And when I say addiction, I'm talking about addiction to alcohol, drugs, gambling addiction, any kind of addiction. And before we get started, I just want to remind the audience that I am a licensed, master level licensed clinical addiction specialist. I specialize in assessing and treating people who suffer from alcohol, drug addiction, gambling addiction. Those are my specialties. I am credentialed in 3 different states: in the state of Virginia, in the state of Georgia, in the state of North Carolina. I've been a credentialed expert for about 19 going on 20 years. So I'm going to present this information from a science standpoint, but I'm going to deliberately use everyday language so the audience can understand where I'm coming from. So, and I also stated that I was going to do topics on addiction in segments, and I want to encourage the audience to check out my video. I did a video on gambling addiction. I did a video on alcohol and drug addiction. Check those videos out. It can give you some insight from the science of addiction from an expert. So with that being said, let's get down to business. Let me drink me some coffee before we get started. Actually, this is my first cup today. That's probably why I'm moving a little slow, but I'm getting there. So I want to talk about what is psychological dependency. And I'm here to tell you, first of all, psychological dependency is normal. And what I mean by that is we all are psychologically dependent on something. You know, if a person is psychologically dependent on their job to pay their bills, a significant other, their church group, that type of psychological dependency is fine. You know, psychological dependency has a powerful influence on the choices we make. So if a person is psychological dependent on anything that's going to support them, that's going to be positive, because we all are psychologically dependent on something. You know, I have a primary job, so I'm psychologically dependent on my job in order to pay my bills. So that type of psychological dependency is not what I'm going to put emphasis on. I'm going to talk about that other type of psychological dependency when a person is psychologically dependent on something that can destroy their livelihood, that can have a direct impact on their freedom, their family, their finances, and their health. That's the type of psychological dependency I am going to talk about from an addiction standpoint. And psychological dependency is the driving force that causes the person to make decisions or make choices that can have a negative impact on their life. It's a powerful influence because it ties into mental obsession. When we're talking about psychological, that automatically telling you that we're dealing with what's going on with the thinking and the thoughts, and how that can drive the person to continue with the alcohol use or the drug use or the gambling or the stealing, anything that's high risk that's going to have an impact on the person's livelihood, their freedom, their health. And I'm going to break this thing down to the audience on why psychological dependency is so powerful, and it causes a person, or it influences a person to continue with their cycle of addiction, with their cycle of drug use. And I'm going to focus more now on addiction, and I'm going to link it to psychological dependency. And the reason why it's so powerful, because there's 4 components that make up psychological dependency. And it's 4 of them. And I'm going to break each one of them down in everyday language. Number 1 that falls under psychological dependency is preoccupation. And that preoccupation is when the alcohol or the drug addict or the gambling addict, they can be at a family event, they can be at work, or they can be at home or engaging their family in conversation or watching a movie. But the problem is, when I talk about preoccupation, is physically they're there, but mentally their mind is on, I'm about to run out of money. I got to hurry up and go get some more money to feed my addiction. I got to go meet the dope man. I wish this movie would hurry up because I need to go. I'm about to run out of drugs or alcohol, so I need to hurry up and go get what I need to feed my addiction. So psychological dependency in relation to preoccupation is the person can literally become mentally obsessed with everything in relation to making sure they don't run out of drugs or they don't run out of alcohol. And so, like I said, they can physically be at a family event, physically be at work, they're just there, but mentally they have become so preoccupied in worrying about, making sure that they can continue to use or continue to gamble. And what that does is that psychological dependency, that preoccupation, when we're talking about alcohol and drug addiction, it causes them or have an influence on them to use more and more of the alcohol, the drugs, or the gambling, and they're going to need more to receive the same effect. So that's component number 1, preoccupation, which is interchangeable with mental obsession. The second component of psychological dependency that makes it so powerful, that causes a person to do things against their values and beliefs. They may have every good intention of getting off work and going home, or every good intention of getting off work and spending time with family, but because of the power of psychological dependency and preoccupation, it has a powerful influence for them to start by the bar, and they can end up being there all night long. The second component of psychological dependency is state-dependent learning. And what state-dependent learning is, when we're looking at in relation to alcoholism or drug addiction, because now the person, alcohol or drug use has progressed to the point where they have using more and more the alcohol, their tolerance is rising, and then now what's going to happen is, as they progress deeper into their addiction, what state-dependent learning is when a person becomes accustomed to performing certain skills, tasks, and duties only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. For example, some people wake up, I'm going to just use this as an example, some people might wake up every morning and they need that first cup of coffee to get on. That's an example of state-dependent learning, is when a person becomes accustomed to doing certain skills or tasks only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. They can't get going good until they get the alcohol or drug of choice. So with state-dependent learning, some people, first thing they wake up in the morning when they're deep into their addiction, they're not going to get going good or moving around good until they have that drink, until they have that alcohol or that drug. If they even still got a job by this point, when I just give another example of state-dependent learning, don't think they going at 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours or working on that job without alcohol or drug use. What they're going to do is sneak in the bathroom and get drunk or drink something or get some alcohol or get some drugs in order to finish that shift out, in order to finish the essential functions of their job, because that's another description of state-dependent learning, when the person becomes accustomed to performing certain skills, task and duty only when alcohol or drug impaired. So that's the second component of psychological dependency, which is state-dependent learning, which leads to more powerful preoccupation and mental obsession, and it drives the person deeper and deeper into their addiction. And the third component of psychological dependency that makes it so powerful for the alcohol or drug user is what we call in the field of addiction, now the person has developed a relationship with the alcohol or drug of choice. Now, the addiction now has become so severe that now that they may have damaged healthy relationships with the wife, significant other, family members, but now because their addiction has progressed so deep, they now have developed a relationship with their alcohol or drug of choice. They may even lie to friends and families about the severity of their use. They're going to do everything to protect the true severity of their alcohol or drug addiction. So they develop a relationship with the primary drug of choice, rather it's alcohol or drugs or marijuana or cocaine or oxycodone, Xanax. They're going to do everything to protect that relationship, to hide it from friends and family members. And that's another component of psychological dependency that makes it so powerful, that influences the person to continue the cycle of the addiction, with the lies, the manipulation, the excessive alcohol, drug use. All of this is contributing to the psychological dependency. And the fourth component of psychological dependency that makes it so powerful, and psychological dependency also contributes to a person relapsing. The fourth component of psychological dependency is psychological defenses. What psychological defenses are is friends and family members may observe that the person's alcohol or drug use has become excessive. They're observing their behavior. They're observing their irresponsibility. So what psychological defenses is, when a family member or loved one may approach the person, it may say, I'm concerned about what I see. I'm concerned about your behavior. I'm concerned about your missed days at work. I'm noticing behavior change. And when that concerned family member say all these things to the user may respond in a very defensive manner. Psychological defenses is like a powerful shield to keep us from hearing the truth. Inside of us, we know what the person is telling us is right, but because that psychological defenses is a powerful shield, it's designed to keep us from hearing the truth. And so now I have presented to the audience the four components of psychological dependency in relation to alcohol and drug addiction. The four components of psychological dependency, which makes it very powerful for a person to sustain or stop the alcohol or drug addiction or gambling addiction, because they got these four powerful forces that's having an influence on what's going on with the thoughts. In the thoughts, our behavior is driven by our thoughts. Number one, real quick, those four components is the preoccupation, similar to mental obsession. The person can be at a family event or they can be at a job, physically they're there, but they're watching their watch, hoping it'll hurry up because they so obsessed with going to get the next drink or the next high. Number two, state-dependent learning. Now that the person alcohol or drug addiction has progressed to the point now they may find themselves needing to drink or use first thing in the morning to get going. Some people may drink or use in the afternoon to get through housework. If they got a job by this point, don't think they working at 8 or 10 hours without going and sneaking in the bathroom to get high in order to finish the shift. State-dependent learning is when the person becomes accustomed to performing certain skills, tasks, or function only when alcohol or drug impaired. And then we got the fourth component, psychological defenses. Psychological defenses is like a powerful shield to keep me from hearing the truth. Psychological defenses are unconscious. They're designed to trick me. And these are all of the powerful forces that make up psychological dependency in relation to it being a powerful influence to cause the user to continue in this cycle of addiction. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, check out some of my other videos on substance abuse and addiction. I'm doing these in series, and I hope the audience got something out of this and better understanding on what exactly is psychological dependency. So with that being said, have a great evening, and I will see you all next time.